just before dawn on the roof of the world. 23,000 feet above sea level, the wind is the only sound. Then the ground moves. Not a tremor, not a shiver, a full 7.8 magnitude earthquake tearing through the Himalayas, and every living creature on this mountain is about to fight for its life. This is Mount Everest, and this is the story of the animals who call it home, the moment the earth turned against them. The Himalayas are not one habitat. They are a stack of them, each one more brutal than the last. Down in the forested valleys, black bears forage in the shadows. Higher up, where the air thins and the trees give way to rock, red pandas move through bamboo thickets that cling to the slopes. Higher still, snow leopards rule a world of cliffs and ice, hunting blue sheep and Himalayan tar across terrain that would kill a human in minutes. And near the very top, where almost nothing survives, marmots and pikas burrow into frozen ground, the last living things before the summit itself. This is the order of things on Everest. Predator above prey, prey above burrow, all of it balanced, until now. The first animal to feel it is a Himalayan marmot, curled deep inside its burrow for the night. The vibration reaches it before any sound does, a low grinding hum through solid rock. Marmots have felt small shifts before, rock slides, distant avalanches. This is different. The walls of the tunnel begin to shed dust, then pebbles, then chunks of frozen earth. In seconds, the marmot is scrambling through collapsing passageways it has used its entire life. Passageways that no longer lead where they used to. It claws through a final wall of loose soil and bursts into open air just as the tunnel behind it caves in completely. Above ground now, but exposed, with no den, no shelter, and a mountain that has not stopped shaking. Not far away, a colony of pikas faces the same nightmare on a smaller scale. These tiny relatives of rabbits spend their entire lives gathering grass into hay piles, preparing for winters that can kill them anyway. Now their burrow network, some of it decades old, is folding in on itself. Pikas are fast, faster than marmots relative to their size, and most of the colony makes it out. But their food stores, the hay piles that took an entire summer to build, are buried under rockfall. Winter is still months away. For a pika, losing a season of stored food is not an inconvenience. It is often a death sentence. Higher on the ridgeline, a snow leopard is mid-stalk. She has spent 40 minutes closing the distance on a small group of Himalayan tar, moving low across the scree, using every boulder as cover. She is seconds from the charge when the mountain betrays her. The ground beneath her front paws shifts, and a slab of loose rock the size of a car breaks free just above the tar herd. The leopard freezes. The tar do not. They scatter in every direction, sure-footed even in panic, bounding across near vertical rock with an agility that has kept their species alive on these cliffs for thousands of years. The hunt is over before it began. The leopard has lost her meal, but she has also just avoided being buried under the very rock slide she triggered. On Everest, timing decides everything, even between predator and prey. The tar scatter, but scattering has its own dangers. One yearling, moving too fast, misjudges a ledge that has held firm his entire life. Under normal conditions, it would hold now too. But the earthquake has already fractured the stone beneath it, invisible cracks running through rock that looks solid from the outside. The ledge gives way. It is the oldest, cruelest lesson of earthquake survival in the mountains. It is rarely the shaking itself that kills. It is what the shaking breaks loose afterward. Lower down the slope, a Tibetan wolf pack has been tracking a herd of blue sheep since sunrise, patient, coordinated, spread out to cut off escape routes the way wolves have hunted in these mountains for generations. The earthquake arrives in the middle of the chase, and for a moment, predator and prey share the exact same instinct: get off this slope, Get to stable ground, survive first, worry about hunting later. The blue sheep press upward toward the cliffs, the one place wolves cannot easily follow. The wolves, for the first time all morning, let them go. There is no strategy in this decision. There is only the deep, ancient part of a wolf's brain that recognizes when the ground itself becomes the greater predator. Musk deer are among the most solitary animals on the mountain, and that solitude becomes a disadvantage now. A lone female, deep in a patch of dwarf rhododendron, has no herd to signal danger, no group to move with. She relies entirely on her own senses, and those senses are already screaming at her. Musk deer have an extraordinary ability to freeze and use camouflage to disappear against the landscape, a defense built for predators, not for an enemy that shakes the very ground she is standing on. Freezing here does nothing. She breaks from cover and runs, zigzagging downhill through brush that would normally hide her perfectly, now just an obstacle between her and safety. In the forest belt below, where the air is thick enough to hold real trees, a Himalayan black bear is torn from its den by the shaking. Black bears in this region often shelter in hollow trees or rock crevices, and this one's shelter is now unstable, chunks of the hillside sliding away just meters from where it stood moments ago. The bear is powerful enough that few things on this mountain threaten it directly, but power means nothing against a landslide. It moves fast for an animal of its size, cutting laterally across the slope rather than straight down, instinctively choosing the path least likely to be undercut by the shifting ground. It is a decision made in half a second, and it is the right one. Straight downhill would have put it directly in the path of a debris flow that tears through the valley minutes later. Red pandas live in the same forest belt, but their world is vertical, built in the branches above the bear's head. When the earthquake hits, a red panda's first instinct is to climb higher, not lower, seeking the thinner, more flexible branches that bend rather than break. It is a strange kind of safety, riding out the shaking 20 feet up a swaying tree, but for an animal built for balance and grip, it may be safer than the ground itself, where entire root systems are being torn loose. Below the panda, the earth cracks open around the base of an older tree, and the whole thing begins to lean. The red panda does not wait to find out what happens next. It leaps to a neighboring tree just as the first one gives way completely. And then there is the wild yak. Nothing on this mountain matches its sheer mass, and in a disaster built on collapsing ground, mass becomes its own kind of armor. A wild yak does not scatter, does not panic in the way smaller animals do. It plants its wide, stable hooves and simply endures, absorbing the shaking rather than fleeing it, moving only when the ground beneath its own feet genuinely gives way. Herds of yak on Everest have survived storms, avalanches, and decades of brutal winters through exactly this kind of stillness. It is not bravery. It is a survival strategy built over thousands of generations. The understanding that on unstable ground, the animal that moves the least often loses the least. The strongest shaking lasts less than 2 minutes. On a mountain, 2 minutes is an eternity. When it finally stops, the silence that follows is almost stranger than the earthquake itself. No bird calls, no wind through the grass, just settling dust and the distant continuous rumble of aftershocks still working their way through the range. What comes next matters more than the earthquake itself. The marmot without a burrow must find or dig new shelter before nightfall, when temperatures on these slopes can drop far below freezing. The peakers without their hay stores must begin gathering again immediately, racing a clock that will not pause for what they have just survived. The snow leopard, having lost her hunt, must find prey again within days or begin burning through fat reserves she cannot easily replace. Every animal on this mountain has just spent everything it had simply staying alive. Now it has to keep living. In the days that follow, researchers who study seismic events in mountain ecosystems have documented a consistent pattern. The animals most likely to survive are not always the strongest or the fastest. They are the ones whose instincts happen to match the specific danger in front of them. The tar whose sure-footedness turned a scatter into a rescue, the yak whose stillness became its shield, the red panda whose climb saved it from a collapsing forest floor. Survival on Everest was never really about strength. It has always been about which ancient instinct fires first when the world starts breaking apart. Weeks later, the mountain looks almost unchanged from a distance, the same white peak against the same sky, but walk its slopes and the scars are everywhere. New scree fields where trails used to run, collapsed burrows slowly being rebuilt, a rock slide path cutting through what was once prime tar grazing ground. Life on Everest has always existed on the edge of catastrophe, one storm, one avalanche, one earthquake away from disaster. What makes these animals extraordinary is not that the mountain spared them. It is that they have spent millions of years learning how to survive it anyway, and long after the aftershocks fade, they will still be here, on the same unforgiving slopes, doing exactly what their ancestors did after every disaster before this one, enduring.